Bihotzeta gogoz bat lehen fededunak, ogiaren hausteko biltzen ziren denak.
We all must make our home, wherever we are. For the Basque people, who have traveled the world since before Columbus, home is something to bring with you, in the traditions of work, of family, of craft. Michaelano has run the Winnemucca Hotel for 40 years. When he was a boy, he watched the Nazi bombers come up the estuary toward Guernica from a field on his father's farm. It was market day, a day when everyone around was in the town. The Condor Squadron did not bother with the bridge, but made sure to get the church, and the marketplace, and the homes of shopkeepers, and the oak tree where the Basque fueros were agreed upon each year for centuries by the kings of Spain and the leaders of the Basque. Though the bombing must have broken their hearts, the Nazis did not succeed in breaking the Basque spirit. Franco should have known better. The old oak tree was destroyed, but a new one is planted in its place. The image of the tree spreads across the stained glass ceiling of the main hall of the Palace of Justice. Its light shines down onto all who sit at the large table, and so it continues to shade and illuminate the work of those who labor here. José Ramón Gabica lives in the village of Ispaster, near Guernica. Although he spent his entire working life in America, he has now retired to the land of his birth. José Ramón came to Idaho when he was 18 to be a sheepherder. I had 2,000 sheep, he says. Oh, the cowboys gave me hell in English, but I didn't know what they were saying. Still, I bought an automatic pistol and a big knife. I herded sheep 4 years in Soda Springs and thought, there's got to be something better. So I went to Nevada. He soon moved to New York City, where he married and worked as an apartment manager for 30 years. José Ramón waits at the bus stop for Maribel, his wife, who is on her way home from the office in Guernica. My wife's name is Sanchez y Luna. Her father was a general in Franco's army. I am Basque. I hate Franco. We don't talk politics, my wife and I. Frank Dindary left his home in the French Basque country in 1947. He was a sheepherder, then a blacksmith in Winnemucca for nearly 50 years. We are going with Frank's sister, Martha Ergy, to visit his nephew Michel in his sheep camp near Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. The road to the top of Beorlegi, the mountain of the mares, winds through verdant fields. Martha remembers when Frank made the journey to Jarbidge to herd sheep. He was one of the first from his village to ride the train to Paris, then a big 4-engine Sabina to New York City, and finally another train to Elko. The life was hard, she tells us. Snow, solitude. He was alone on the mountain, with only a portrait of a friend to keep him company. Near the top of a ridge, a gravel track winds past a small stone church where horses and several Charolais cows lounge. Just a few hundred yards along this ridge, stuccoed buildings mark the summer home of the Ergy family's 160 head of sheep. Michel is dark, intense, tall for a Basque. We share a Porto and drink his health. It is his 40th birthday. Michel is in the middle of the cheese-making season. These days he milks for 2 hours twice a day, morning and evening. Each ewe gives a liter of milk in winter, he says. Now in June it is somewhat less. 30 liters of milk makes 2 wheels of cheese, 2 cheeses a day, until perhaps next week. Then he will go down the hill, as he says, and help his brother cut hay on the farm in the valley. As a Basque mariner has told me, in the Basque country, if you are the eldest son, you will inherit the family farm. If you are not the eldest son, you can either become a sailor or a priest. Just off the coast of Vizcaya, west of Bermeo, lies an ancient hermitage on a small island. High on a rocky cliff, it keeps silent watch over the dull sea. The boulders and caves are so far below that the boom of waves is barely audible on this humid gray day. The chapel of San Juan Gaztelugatxe was built some 8 centuries ago. The chapel door is locked, but one can imagine members of a family standing here, looking out across the gray sea after their loved ones who have sailed away to a new life in another world. As the sailor longs for home, so the immigrant has a longing for the country of his birth. The sheepherder, alone on his ridge, thinks about his village church, perhaps, the house of his father, with the neatly tended garden of vegetables and flowers. The artifacts of his old life are replaced by the empty desert. Instead of shuttered windows above cobbled streets, are the broad mountains and the endless sky. His ears are filled not with the sound of church bells, but with the clinking, tinkling of the bells of ewes. Instead of the voices of his village murmuring in Basque, in Spanish, in French, he hears the muttering of 1,000 sheep. We all must make our home every day, whether it is on the sea, in an apartment in New York City, or in a sheep camp on the side of a windy mountain. We bring our home with us, in a way. We plant a new garden. We read our books. We hang the photographs of our loved ones from the old country and teach our children the language of their ancestors, so that one day they may be able to greet them in the words of their own youth. We hold the traditions of our history in our hearts, and we make new traditions where we are, in our new home, in the West.